The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Want to remind you about KSL's Quarters for Christmas. It's underway, raising money for local children in need. 100% of the money received is returned to the community to provide kids with shoes, clothing, and coats. You can donate online at kslquarters.com or at any Deseret Book location. Ben, did you see that some wingnut in Sandy crashed a car through the...
Whoa. Everyone's trying to return a product.
This happened in Sandy. I was just scrolling through the silly For You thing on Twitter, which always gets pretty bananas, and I see a video pop up that says Sandy Man.
Yeah.
And then I read into it. A guy bought a car, thought it was a lemon, tried to bring it back later that day. They said, sorry, pal.
He bought an as-is car. It was designed as like, this is what you're getting. Like, you recognize this car is not fresh off the lot, brand new, fancy.
There's a reason it's priced the way that it is. And they bought it, and then the guy didn't like it, and he came back, and they said, as is, pal, sorry.
They said, yeah, like that's
they
the
said,
deal.
I'm going to drive that car through the front door.
And did.
And that's what he did.
That's exactly what he did.
And then was arrested.
Well, I'm always amazed at the decisions people make, period. But certainly around the holidays. And everyone gets a little excitable.
Well, that guy has an anger issue.
Yeah. Oh, yes,
and
of course.
You know what I never understood? Like, did you ever have friends that punched walls?
Oh, yeah. I had one friend specifically.
Ben was that guy.
Who was a puncher.
Like, that, no matter what the outcome, that, like, is not going to be advantageous for you in any way, shape, or form. You know what I mean? At very least, if it all goes well, you have a hole in the wall to fix.
Or you punch through a door and the mirror and you have to have a bunch of stitches in your hands. Or you punch a bus stop and you break all the bones in your hand. Same guy. All the same guy.
All the same guy?
All my same friends.
He didn't even have I caught a stud when I did it? Because that's the most common one.
No, the through the glass mirror needing stitches was maybe his masterpiece.
I never understood the rationale. Like, I feel like you're just making an angry decision that in no way will, like, benefit you in any way, shape, or form. Like, there was no way that this was going to benefit this guy in any way. I can sympathize, I suppose, with the anger, although not really if it said as is on the car. But you know what I mean? Like, now he doesn't have a car. Or I guess he's still
freedom.
He
freedom, might get to keep the car. But ironically, he might keep the car.
But it's way damaged. He's got to pay $10,000 to fix the dealership.
At least. I know that was the early estimate, but yeah.
He's going to have to do some community
He's
service.
He's charged with attempted manslaughter.
Because people had to dive out of the way?
People were in the building.
Yeah, like, this is just a decision that is not going to pay off for this man.
No, I remember when I was a skateboarder, when I would get, frustrated, which is a part of the business, I would, as they say, focus your skateboard, which means you break your skateboard. You put your foot through it. It's called focusing your board. It's like, yeah, in retrospect, what was the upside? I'm out $35, which is what a new skateboard costs. So, now I'm mad that I'm not skateboarding well, and also I owe the store $35 to get a new one, and I can't skateboard the rest of the day. There's not a single good decision that was made in that interaction. It all was bad for me. I
threw my putter once.
Yeah, right.
And it absolutely went up in a tree and absolutely did not come back down.
I don't know how to relay this into a draft, but yeah, last week was worst money spent. This is all in that conversation.
Oh, yeah, that is, yeah. I had to get a new putter.
Yeah, worst anger decisions you've ever made. We don't want to get into it, but
I can't believe that this video is bananas.
Amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
Of this guy, and then he just gets out of the car yelling, and it's like, man, it's going to go downhill for you from here.
Correct.
Like, that you think it's bad now,
right.
It's going to get worse.
I don't know what it's like to wake up in jail on Christmas morning, thankfully. I don't know what it's like to wake up in jail, period. But I bet you it's really tough on Christmas Eve. I bet you Christmas morning is a tough one to wake up.
I didn't think
jail.
about the homicide there, the attempted homicide or whatever. I didn't think about that. Yeah, it's more serious. I was thinking just property damage, that sort of thing.
Yeah, you want to kick a door, whatever. You know what I mean? You want to break your own window and just say like. But man, yeah.
This is why
driving into people is.
Well, people like that guy are the reason I don't engage in road rage in any way, shape, or form. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Because if you're making a decision like that, you might be a pretty... What other decisions are you making? But I love it when we make national news. It's always for something terrible.
Yeah. But not always. Like today, A.J. Dybantsa.
Oh, good
signing
point.
with BYU, the biggest national story in sports today.
Which is crazy.
No, BYU consistently finding a way now to put itself at the middle of the sports world is fascinating. And this isn't solely because of Ryan Smith. It's not. He's obviously a main driver here of BYU doing this. But like we're watching Pat McAfee. We always have Pat McAfee on. How many times you and I just been sitting doing the show because, again, we don't have the sound on. We don't know what's coming up. And Ryan Smith is on TV. Like Ryan Smith has been the center of the sports world in a lot of different ways recently in a way that the state of Utah simply never has. And it's, we've said this a lot. Man, it's a really good time to be a sports fan in our state.
It is. One thing I really like about Ryan Smith is he may accomplish somewhat something that I thought was impossible, and that's make Utah tell people we're normal.
Yeah.
This is a pretty normal place.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't be surprised that a religious university would land a number one basketball recruit. We shouldn't be surprised about that at all because, Ben, you know this. You know that private religious schools dominate high school basketball? High school basketball. Nobody bats an eye. Nobody goes, well, where did LeBron go to high school? It was Saint something, right? Nobody goes, well, LeBron's not Catholic. Why would he go there? Like, that never crosses anybody's mind.
Right. I don't know if LeBron is Catholic or not, but
I have no idea.
To your point, he didn't go because he was Catholic.
Because he was Catholic. That's never, nobody makes that
Right.
calculus ever.
Right.
But for BYU, we're like, oh, shocked it's different? I mean, it really shouldn't be.
No.
It really shouldn't be. Now, I know that the living standards are a little bit different, and that has made it controversial in the past. But they are not the only university with an honor code by any means. So it's not really that. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Dennis Lindsay said it for years. We've got to tell people that this place is cool. And then what did he do? He sheltered every single one of his players
they made
as much as possible.
You never had to leave the practice facility.
Like he said that, but his actions were embarrassed of this community. And Ryan Smith's whole thing is, no, this place is great.
Yeah.
We just have to show you. I mean, we just have to show you. But this place is great. It shouldn't be a shock to us that a great high school player wants to play at a religious university. That's not a shock.
Which I have had, and I mean it, like one-on-one conversations with people making the decisions, talking about why they want to develop downtown. And it's because, and this is the name, they want Taylor Hendricks to leave the arena and have things to do. Not, I'm going to go to the practice facility and hide, to your point. So we're going to get an in-house chef, which every team has a chef, but like we're going to have a chef and we're going to have a place where he can hang out with his friends. There's a lounge and all these things. There's a club in the Jazz in the Delta Center. And those things are all there and they are still there.
Yeah.
And those are options for the guys. But yeah, they want you to be able to leave the building and also enjoy your life. And look, for the name to be mentioned, Taylor Hendricks is funny to me because I think Taylor's very much a homebody and like a quiet
he seems like
kid.
An introvert, yeah.
He is not, he's not the guy who's looking for a party necessarily. But like, yes, you need to provide some opportunity to enjoy your life outside of the practice facility. And I agree with you. I think Ryan Smith has done a good job. And what's his tagline? He always says this. He says, I believe in Utah. I'm investing in Utah because I believe in Utah, and I kind of believe him. His actions certainly back that up.
They do. And, Ute fans out there, I see them complaining on the Snap Talk about Ryan Smith and supporting me. This type of news, believe it or not, is good for everybody who lives in this state and who is a sports fan.
The same reason Utah going to the Pac-12 was good for BYU.
It was good for everybody.
It was. It was good for Utah State. It was good for BYU. I mean, it is not unrelated that Utah going to the Pac-12 plays a part in BYU landing A.J. Dybantsa 15 years later. And yeah, it's a small part, but it's about elevating the image of your state and the programs around it and what can happen in those states. It's all related.
And BYU's got a bunch of donors with a bunch of dough, which is also not unique in the religious education world. I mean, think of what's Falwell's university that is just printing its own money,
right.
And is trying to compete with, Grand Canyon is moving up to the to the WAC, right? Because they have a bunch of dough.
Was Patino at Liberty? Where was he coaching? But yeah, I mean, they've had
Hugh
all
Freeze was at Liberty.
Yeah, I mean, they've had crazy basketball coaches. They've had good football coaches, yeah. And some of it's rehabbing your image, but people will go there.
Notre Dame's been swimming in dough forever.
Yeah, right.
So BYU is not necessarily as unique, I think, as we think, or it shouldn't be viewed that way.
Boston College is a religious school.
Right.
Gonzaga is a great basketball school. It's a Jesuit school.
Yeah, aren't like half of all the WCC is religious in one way, but half of them I think are Jesuit schools.
Yeah. So there are.
So it's not unique.
Correct.
It's not. It shouldn't be that surprising.
Correct. And nationally, obviously, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I think, has a reputation due to how little people know about it still. And I don't even want to say a stigma, but a reputation. It's like, if you've lived in the state, it's inaccurate, that stigma, that expectation or that belief of what people think if they're visiting Utah for the first time is. So that is the value of having AJ here not in Salt Lake, but in Utah playing basketball in high school and recognizing oh yeah, there's normal people everywhere.
Tell them it's colder up here though than it is in Hurricane.
It is a little warmer or colder. It's warmer down there. But that's also part of it. You invest in this kid now, he kind of breaks down that barrier and that stigma, and then he goes to the NBA and it's like, yeah, I played at BYU. It's not a big deal. And guess what? The next kid who says, hey, my favorite player is AJ Dybantsa, he's talking right now, his favorite player is Kevin Durant. If he ends up being the superstar and his favorite player went to BYU, that kid will not rule out going to BYU just because what somebody else may have thought of it. No, if AJ went there and had success, you can too.
By the way, having Kevin Durant as a recruiting tool is nice.
Not bad. Joel? Yeah.
Yeah, let me get you. Who's your favorite player? Kevin Durant? Yeah, let me get him on the horn.
Let me text him. See if he texts back immediately. Oh, he did? Cool.
That's pretty nice for a living room tool. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Let's just get Kevin on the phone.
So
let's see what he thinks.
We'll see. And then there is the other half of this, which we've talked about a lot. I want to see what happens on the floor. I want to see if you win. That's the other part of it. Guys, now, I don't know actually how much some of these players care about winning. And that doesn't mean they're not winners or won't win in the NBA, but I don't know if some of these kids are viewing the next 30 games they're going to play as my number one overall goal is to go and compete for an NCAA title and make the Final Four. Would they take it? Sure. Do they want to be a part of it? Of course they do. I don't know if that's the number one priority for everybody.
It shouldn't be. I'll take it one step further. It should not be. It is the flaw with college sports. It's the flaw with college sports being the minor league to pros. Is because the European soccer model is way better for developing players, where it doesn't matter if they win. They're in this developmental thing, and they're working on skills. They're not working on
winning.
They don't care. Britton Johnson did not. I mean, he turned into a pretty decent shooter by the end of his career, Ben, but he didn't go to Utah a good shooter. And he loved his high school coach, so don't get me wrong. This is just the example. But his high school coach at Murray wanted to win. So he's not going to tell Britton to go stand out on the 3-point line and work on his jumper. He's going to tell Britton to go dunk on that guy and then go block that shot. And it made Britton a McDonald's All-American. He was incredible, and he won state.
I've told the story a bunch of times. Larry Markkinen's dad kept shopping him around teams because they would let him play guard or play on the perimeter. When I'm sure at 7 feet tall, he's probably... How many 7 feet tall people are there in Finland? 11?
Every coach that saw him was like, what are you talking about? Get under the hoop.
And his dad was like, no. He's going to dribble, and he's going to shoot threes, and he's going to play that way, and it's going to make him $200 million. And his dad was exactly right.
It is the flaw in our system is that we're too competitive. We want to win. So instead of developing a great pro, we're trying to develop what wins on every level, and that doesn't necessarily create the great pros. I think the AAU system for developing young basketball players is terrible. I think these pro coaches and college coaches, for that matter, have to fix all these terrible habits because players are allowed to play however they want, and then they win and get the attention and all that sort of thing, and so the behavior is rewarded. All these NBA players that can't shoot and love to dribble all dominated AAU for their entire run. Isaiah Collier dominated AAU.
Yeah.
Nobody ever thought, like, hey, we know you're dominating, but let's work on that J, dude.
Dominate less, shoot more threes.
Yeah. Why don't you go to these 3 spots on the floor and figure out how to shoot from there? Now, we'll take some L's in the meantime, but that's cool. You'll be a better player. No, never. They take Collier. They say, hey, go run over that guy, go dribble around that guy, get a layup, and let's go win this thing by 25.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But if I were Dybantsa right now, I'd pick Kevin Young because he's going to provide me with the skill set to succeed at the NBA. I don't care about winning at BYU.
I hope so.
And
We'll
fans
see.
can go,
I'm not confident that it's going to happen.
That should be his attitude.
I agree with you.
And if Kevin Young actually is going to sell that, he needs to deliver it.
Correct. Yeah, you have to let those guys flourish.
He's not telling guys, hey, we're going to win it all. He's telling guys, hey, I'm going to make sure you're drafted in the top 10 because I know how to succeed at that level. It's a weird line he's walking, but he's got to deliver if that's the message.
Yeah, and we'll see if, Yegor pays that off early. AJ's already committed, so he's going to be there. This is going to be a 2-year run for BYU that probably is an audition to get future kids like this to continue to play at BYU.
The dregs for Dybantsa.
Okay.
Have we had any people submit anything yet?
Because nothing rhymes with Dybantsa. I want a Dybantsa is the funniest thing there is.
Man, we got to come up with something. He's going to be in the sports lexicon for the next 2 years around here. All right. We'll figure it out. Are we going to do this thing one last time?
Yeah, let's do it. That's why people listen on Tuesdays.
It's not. The Big 12 Power Pol is coming up next. Stay tuned.
We might even have to do it in post-bowl games.
The final one. Nope, absolutely not.
I think it might be a good January.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
ABC prime time against the Heisman winner, against Shedeur Sanders, who's going to be potentially number 1 overall pick. If it's not him, it's Travis. Against a defensive front that started to figure things out. You got an opportunity to set the standard against Colorado as an in-conference opponent and do it on a national stage. Plus, I still think the entire country is questioning the entire validity of 10-2. Well, if Colorado shows up in the Alamo Bowl, chopping at the bit, fully loaded with the Heisman winner and Shedeur Sanders, Coach Prime at his best, and all of them wanting to win that game, and you show up fully committed with a full roster. If they go 11-2, now we got to start to talk about the 2024 BYU Cougars and their existence in the hierarchy of all-time great teams at BYU.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Who is climbing? Who is falling? And who just flat out stinks?
Some of y'all football sucks.
This is the Big 12 Power Pol with Jake and Ben on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Join JJ and Alex coming up on Friday from 3 to 6 at the shops at Southtown in Sandy. Find the perfect gift this holiday season at the shops at Southtown. All right, we're going to do this. This is the final.
We'll see.
Big 12 Power Pol, where we rank all 35 teams in the Big 12. Well, what are you laughing at? The Big 10 has 40 teams.
Yeah, right. Did you see all the discussion over the weekend, which is the conversation we've been having for a month, which is like, turns out when you have 40 teams at a conference, some of them don't play each other.
College football used to be my favorite. It is not any longer, which really hurts my feelings, but whatever. Now we have to do the Power Pol. All right. Who's last, Christian?
No big change here, guys. Still number 16, Oklahoma State.
They earned it.
3-9, winless within Big 12 play. They went to Gundy after the season and said, "You're either taking less money, and we'll use some of that money for NIL, which is not supposed to be allowed at all, I don't think, but the boosters are calling the shots here, or you're fired." And he said, "Okay, I guess I'll take less money." But they restructured his contract and are going to have a little bit more money on the field, a little less money in his pocket.
He also said the best thing for this program is me.
Correct. But, yeah, they really...
Now a cheaper me.
They put an ultimatum on the table for him, though. It said, like...
But still me.
NIL or you pick.
Well, there's no way that they actually like that guy.
No,
now
I think
everybody, but everybody wears on everybody. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
How many relationships do you truly have that are lasting 20 years? You know what I mean? Like that guy's going to grate on people.
Correct.
So he probably doesn't have a lot of friends left.
Ollie Gordon has declared for the NFL draft, so he will not be back next year, though he has 1 year left of eligibility.
You know who does have another year?
My main man, the
Alan
Red Rocket,
Bowman.
Alan Bowman. He said he's coming back, right? Or at least he was
He
eligible
was granted
to play
the 8th year,
another year of college
but he
football.
was benched 3 times, separate times. So I don't know why he would go back.
He may not go to Oklahoma State, but he probably will be in college football next year.
Next.
Number 15, Arizona.
Yikes. What a bad season for Arizona.
They are also making, not wholesale changes because the quarterback is coming back. Is it Mike Brennan?
Brennan, yeah. Who I like. I thought he was going to be good there.
They're changing their entire offensive staff because it was a disaster this year. So having to make a lot of changes at Arizona. Noah Fafita and Ted McMillan's going to the NFL. Noah Fafita said he's coming back. There was a rumor he entered the transfer portal, but his dad said that was false.
He likes Arizona.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
All right, next.
Number 14, and kind of a surprise, number 14, Central Florida.
These are all surprises. All these teams were
Yeah.
picked at the top of the league.
Yeah. Central Florida lost their last game. Obviously, they fell to Utah 28-14.
They quit on their coach and their team, and their coach quit on them.
You know, we have talked, he went to Florida State to be the offensive coordinator. That's Gus Malzahn. We talked a little bit about how you organize your quarterback depth chart to make sure you do satisfy the freshman if you have to go to him and you don't put yourself in a lose-lose situation the way Utah did with Isaac Wilson. Central Florida actually did kind of play it right. They brought in KJ Jefferson. They had their previous quarterback, and then they had the true freshman who ended up being, I think, being their best quarterback, but they made him third, and they didn't go to him until really late in the season, so when things were already borderline disastrous, they could just audition him for a little bit and give him a pathway to come back next year. And we'll see if he ends up. That could change, though, once Gus Malzahn left. We'll see. Central Florida, interesting offseason. Hired Scott Frost, right, to be their head coach. They're bringing him back after a truly disastrous stretch in Nebraska.
Next.
Number 13, Utah.
Disappointing season for the Utes, Ben. They did get their second conference win of the season in the last week of the season, which seems bizarre to say, but couldn't find an offense.
I thought they played better down the stretch. I know they got blown out by Colorado. They certainly played BYU very tough, and I thought that built a little bit of momentum for a team that was in a free fall. They truly played well at Central Florida, and they did all the things that you have to do at Utah to win games, which is they got a pick six. I think they had 2, right? The defense stepped up and really put the offense in a good spot to win when they had a quarterback who was not on scholarship, and that's what they did with Batari.
Well, now they've cut their whole offense and are starting from scratch.
Everybody's
gone. We'll see how that goes.
So 5-7. It is a good sign, I will say this. If the worst season you've ever had is 5-7 in P4 play, you're probably okay as a program, and Utah's just fine.
Their place in the new NIL world is interesting, though, because they don't have the dough to throw around like BYU does.
No, they are going to have to pick BYU or basketball or football.
Yeah, back to making $1 out of a dime.
Yep.
Next.
Number 12, Houston.
Crypto is the best way to do that, I heard. Make $1 out of a dime. Everyone says crypto. Sam Bankman-Fried.
It's going well now.
Houston, 4-8. Lost to BYU 30-18 in their final game of the season.
Our boy Fritz is going to have them riding high in no time.
I agree with you. Really good defense, no offense to speak of, but I think Fritz is a good coach. And I think you can win at Houston.
You can win at Houston. I agree with that. All right, next.
Number 11, Cincinnati.
The most boring team in college football.
Yeah, I wish I had something to say. I don't know anything about them. I don't know if they're actually in the Big 12. I heard they were.
I think
so I just
they're
put them
in
on this list.
I think they're in Ohio.
5-7 sounds exactly what
right.
you would expect.
Yeah, I could have told you every single thing that happened to Cincinnati this year.
That's what I'm saying. The most boring football
Right.
program in college football.
I could have watched every minute or watched no minutes and told you exactly what was going to come. And it's what happened. They went 5-7. They lost to TCU last game of the season.
Why are we
20-13.
even wasting time talking about them? What's next?
Number 10, now we're getting to the bowl-eligible teams. West Virginia.
Did not save Neil Brown's job.
They should rehire Rich Rod.
Think so?
No.
Go crazy?
No, I do not. I think Rich Rod's kind of a mess. That's probably not the way I'd go.
They have not named their next head coach yet.
West Virginia is a good job. If they get a good coach, you can win. We were talking about you can win at Houston. Believe it or not, you can win big at West Virginia. They just have to find the right dude. And Rich Rod was great at West Virginia. West Virginia was a, top 5 program. He got the Michigan job.
Do you think, he did. Do you think it's an advantageous spot to be in West Virginia in the Big 12 to kind of be an ACC, SEC country while still playing in a different conference, or do you think that hurts them?
I don't think it matters.
You don't think it matters?
The league affiliation, I really don't think it matters. If anything, it hurts them because they're so far away.
Yeah.
All right, next.
They're going to play Memphis in the Frisco Bowl.
Number 9, TCU.
They beat Cincinnati. 8-4, much better than I expected from Sonny Dykes this year.
Okay, yeah. I mean, he's building a program. I wouldn't build that program at TCU, but yeah, he's an all-offense, air raid, go get him, can't stop anybody. I mean, exactly what you'd picture a Sonny Dykes team to look like. I mean, exactly what he coached at Cal.
Among bowl teams in the Big 12, they got arguably the worst opponent in Louisiana. There's some good games. Maybe I'll take that back in a moment here. But, yeah, Louisiana and New Mexico Bowl that's not going to draw a lot of eyeballs.
Next.
Number 8, and an interesting number 8, Kansas.
Well, Jake had him at 7.
Absolutely.
You moved him up from last week
Yes.
after getting absolutely smoked by Baylor 45-17.
I think that they are a good team. I can't, you were the one who was on the Kansas bandwagon. I can't believe
Rock
yeah. No, they were a better team than their record said. If Kansas
they
played
were.
TCU today, Kansas would win.
Yeah. I honestly think they said, guys, where do you want to be on Christmas? Do you want to be practicing, getting ready to go to a bowl game, or do you want to spend the entire time with your family? And they said, family on 3. And so they didn't show up for that last game. But had they wanted to beat Baylor, they probably could have.
I think so. I had them above Texas Tech. I think they're a better team than Texas Tech. The record doesn't really look like that, but yeah, I think that they're a better team than those teams.
You sound like the College Football Playoff Committee.
Whatever.
Next.
This is as futile of exercise.
Yeah, agreed. We're all making it up as we go.
Number 7, Texas Tech.
They stink.
What if this is exactly what the College Football
That's what
Playoff
somebody
Committee
said
does?
about Alabama. They stink. They stink.
They do kind of stink.
SMU's good.
They're not either.
Okay. I mean, Alabama beat, Georgia and Penn State this year? Nah, they stink. Some College Football Playoff bozo.
No, I mean, tell me what is good about Texas Tech. They have the worst defense?
The worst defense in the country.
They can kind of score when they have to.
Yeah, they can score. That's it. They scored 52 points to beat West Virginia. That's exactly what they can do. They're playing Arkansas in the Liberty Bowl.
Texas Tech is one of those programs that you just think is good or could be good and never is. Even when Mike Leach was there, they never won the league.
Right. They had Patrick Mahomes and they never won anything.
They were a 500
They
team.
have arguably the greatest quarterback in history, and they couldn't do anything. Yeah.
And they stunk.
Totally with you.
Then you go, well, you're in Texas. Why you have players? I don't know. Can't get out. They always stink.
Yep.
Bet on them stinking. Next.
Number 6, Baylor.
Crushed Kansas 45-17. Good bowl game. LSU in the Texas Bowl. They'll draw some eyeballs. LSU's a big name, so good for them.
All right.
And a better year than I certainly expected from Dave Aranda, enough to keep his job, certainly.
They should have done what West Virginia did.
Fired him?
Said oh, okay, maybe it's an okay record, but you're still not it.
Well, if they go 6-6 next year, they probably will.
But see, that's the point.
Yeah, right.
If that's how you're thinking,
Correct.
Then just move on.
If you don't know if you have the right guy, you don't have the right guy.
It's
probably.
actually more fair to him to just move on than have the axe. Well, who was it for the Lakers that they were like, okay, we're going to give it one more try, and he made it 4 games? Was it D'Antoni?
Yeah, it might have been D'Antoni. Regardless, interesting matchup here because Dave Aranda used to be the D coordinator at LSU, right?
Yep.
So some some familial relationships there.
Next.
Kicking off the top 5, Kansas State.
I don't know if Kansas State was as good as top 5 this year. To be honest with you, 8-4, had some bad losses. Like, they were kind of close to beating Iowa State, but they are a team that repeatedly shot itself in the foot.
Well, they
lost to
beat themselves against Iowa State.
They looked awful against BYU. Like, for that being BYU's best win of the year, other than SMU, I mean, in conference, like, that's not great. Kansas State was not that awesome. And I thought they would be, and they weren't.
Well, they run into the same problem that all teams with running quarterbacks run into. A quarterback's going to have to throw at some point.
At some point.
And I like Avery Johnson. I mean, it's like a 6'4" dude that can move like that.
Yeah.
But he can't throw.
Yeah, the truth is he's closer to Travis Wilson than he is Pat Mahomes. You know, and people want to say, like, that mobile. It's like, well, Pat can throw the ball. Pat can really throw the ball.
It will be Utah's issue if Dan Pierre transfers to Utah.
Yeah. Closer to Travis Wilson than Lamar Jackson.
If they have to win a game with their arm, it's probably not going to go well.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right, what's next?
Number 4, Colorado.
Shador can throw.
Absolutely put it on Oklahoma State, 52-0. Shout out to Oklahoma State. Just absolutely quit on the season. I don't blame them at all for that. They let everyone know that they were not interested in being on the football field for a second longer.
See, I don't think the Utes quit on Witt. I think Oklahoma State quit on Gundy.
Absolutely.
Which means they probably should have moved on from
I agree
Gundy.
with you.
If your team totally quits on you, that is a really bad that's a really bad sign.
I hope that everyone keeps their promise and plays. I have my doubts. I'm very skeptical,
BYU,
but I hope everyone keeps their promise.
BYU, Colorado, and the Alamo Bowl should be cool.
Eyeballs.
This should be a great matchup.
Yep.
I don't think the Colorado athletic director is correct when he says the majority of the crowd will be rooting for the Buffs, however.
He must not know anything about BYU or its fan base or the state of Texas or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, I think, yes, that. Next.
Number 3, Iowa State.
They're kind of a boring team for a good team. You know, speaking of, I don't think they stink. I think their offense was better this year than it is most years. But an uninspiring team.
They've never won a conference championship, right?
Right.
Ever. Which makes me think that this is probably the ceiling of Iowa State and Matt Campbell. And Matt Campbell might be a good coach, but Matt Campbell at Iowa State, 9-3 might be their A-plus season, which is not that good. Unfortunately. Like, you got to be able to get to the next level.
Because Iowa State's never been. You shouldn't be good at Iowa State. Recruit to Ames?
Yeah. But they were close. They at least made the championship game, but they looked awful in that game. Man, Arizona State absolutely blew them out. And, yeah, that's the problem. Iowa State just might have a permanent ceiling that doesn't let you break through there.
Come play here, where the most interesting thing you can do in your personal life is loiter at the 7-Eleven.
Yeah, sleep.
Next.
Number 2, BYU.
Beat Houston 30-19. As we mentioned, Colorado in the Alamo Bowl.
They should be in the playoff. If SMU got in the playoff, BYU should be in the playoff ahead of SMU.
I would listen to that argument.
They beat them. What do you mean listen to that argument?
I would listen to that argument.
So I had BYU at 2 because I think they're the second best team in the league. I do. The impact of when they lost their games did not impact my vote.
2 of the 3 of us had them at number 2.
Oh, Christian, defend your BYU at 3.
We're in the Big 12 championship. That's about it.
I think that's fair.
Who cares about that?
Fair. I do think that's fair.
So some tiebreaker, some random detail is influencing your vote, Christian?
It's like Alabama, man. If you want to be in, you got to win your games that you need to win.
I don't have a problem with that argument
They
at all.
had the control of their own destiny, whatever you want to say, and they fumbled it away.
Who's number 1, Christian?
Number 1, Arizona State.
That is fair. BYU had the same opportunity to control their own destiny that Iowa State did, and Iowa State did, and BYU did not. ASU, number 1. They're 11-2, right? Because they won the bowl, counting the championship game.
Is Scatterbo the league's most valuable player?
No. Shador.
They didn't win the league.
That doesn't mean he's not the most valuable.
I don't know. Scatterbo.
Best player on the best team, yes, and if that's your MVP criteria,
No,
sure.
but I mean, like, he's the only player on that team. I know people around here think
Levitt's good.
Levitt's notable. Is he good?
Sam Levitt, not Dallin.
No,
But
his brother was Dallin, but
Yeah.
we know him because of his brother. Or we
he
pay
does not like
attention to him.
BYU anymore. Got some mean words to say after
Well,
games.
that was a thing at Utah State.
Yeah,
I
right.
remember that
Yeah.
when he went to Utah State. But he's like a one-man wrecking crew. I think
He's awesome.
I think you can
And
make
he
an
was
argument.
awesome in this game.
I think you can make an argument he's the league's most valuable player.
I mean, he is the reason why they won 11 games. You're right. You're 100% correct. He put a team on his back, a little bit like Genty at Boise State. Everybody knew it was coming. Everyone game planned to stop it, and no one could stop it. So yeah, there's a better argument there than just Shedeur. Like if
What about Travis?
Shedeur is more important to Colorado because he's a quarterback than the wide receiver or cornerback is, which is also why I would give the Heisman to Genty. You can be the best cornerback. You can be the best wide receiver and be awesome. And that doesn't mean you're not a better football player. But impact on game, quarterbacks matter. Running backs matter more than cornerbacks do. They just do. They touch the ball every time.
Correct. I agree.
Yeah.
Real quick, I'm just looking this up. Sorry, Ben. Arizona State was 71st in passing offense.
Yeah. And some of that's because they just default as Scatabo.
Because they should.
And you should, right. He's that good. Yeah. Why worry about throwing the ball if you can run it? I would never throw the ball. In college football?
And he's a Northern Colorado transfer.
263 carries, 1,600 yards, 1,568 to be exact, 19 touchdowns, and I think those are just rushing because he had 3 receiving touchdowns as well, and 500 yards to the air, which I'm almost positive would have led Utah, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Did Dorian Singer have 500? I don't know.
I doubt it.
Yeah, I doubt it.
I could look that up for you. Arizona State, though, was an easy number 1 vote. They're going to play at Penn State in the playoff.
I think they might beat them. I think they can beat Penn State, which would be awesome.
All right. Stay tuned. We wrap up the show.
Dorian Singer had 700 yards this year.
Coming up next. Oh, so better than we thought.
Yeah, much better than I expected.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
Let's start off with the good news of Kyle Whittingham coming back. Tell me what that means for this Utah team and what kind of legacy are we going to see Kyle Whittingham hopefully set himself up for this next season?
He's worked too hard. He's accomplished too much of that program. He's the Lavelle Edwards of Utah football. You think he wants to go out 5-7? Of course not. The challenge for Kyle Whittingham now is to come back with a renewed energy and vigor to turn this program around. Kyle Whittingham has to rebuild his own program. There's a lot of changes already. We're up past 15 players that are in the portal. He's got a brand new offensive coordinator in Jason Beck. Utah looks completely different now than they did even 3 or 4 weeks ago. This is going to be a lasting part of his legacy, is to turn around the program that went 5-7 and turn them into something special next season. And a lot of work Alex is going to have to go into that.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson
1, 2, 3, move it.
on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Two amigos on the airways, talking sports. They got him make jokes and also loves his tie-dye. Ben's got style with his scarf. Oh my.
Jake and Ben, this segment brought to you by Peach Doors and Windows. Amazing home transformations begin with Peach, where 5-star reviews are the norm. Call them today for your free in-home estimate, 801-566-1255, Peach Doors and Windows. Man, it wasn't until I wrote this anthem for our show did I realize that you don't like reggae music. I don't know why that surprised me so much.
Yeah, I'm not like a diehard reggae guy.
You're not into reggae.
It's not my thing. Yeah, you're right.
I
But I like that
surprised.
song. I can
was
come
surprised
along. I
by
can
that.
come around to any of it. I can get behind any of it. And
But
that
I
one, is working.
specifically created a reggae jam because I assumed you liked reggae. Like Christian obviously
What
likes
about
reggae.
me screams reggae?
I don't know.
You've never seen me in tie-dye. I'm not that easygoing.
You used to play hacky sack.
I don't use recreational marijuana.
You just strike me as somebody who wouldn't dislike reggae.
Don't, Lloyd poked his head in here like.
Now I know Lloyd doesn't like reggae. There's not a chance Lloyd likes reggae.
No, he's wound too tight.
What is Lloyd's polka?
Yeah. What's the
with the accordion?
With the accordion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or no. I could see Lloyd being in a jug band. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Playing the washtub bass.
Okay. Yeah. Just dragging the stick across that board.
Yeah. Insane clown posse.
Magnets. Yeah. How do they work?
Hans and Scotty are coming up next. We will talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks, Christian.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.